Madame Blavatsky, the chief founder of the Theosophical Society and a clear exponent of the Theosophical philosophy, was an extraordinary person as is well recorded in the history. With her writings and travels over the world, she had opened a new continent of thought to the contemporary thinking world. Human mind, getting strengthened with the ideas of material sciences and the later introduced interaction of psychological sciences, needed a fusion of both with spiritual sciences. Without such coordination, there could be a danger of the world getting bisected into sections as scientific dogmatism and religious orthodoxy. She opened the doors of occultism, moving it away from the growing tendencies of spiritualism and phenomena such as calling back the dead to scene for possible entertainment and instruction of the living. She talked about the continuity of life in its multifarious processes, uniqueness of human existence, and its glorious future. Knowledge of the triune nature of man and its perfect identity with the universal nature is absolutely essential for men, she thought. To provide this, she called the nature into a witness box and appealed to her to unravel her secrets to humanity. This was her primary endeavor in the first ever book on theosophical philosophy, Isis Unveiled. Then, in her secret doctrine, she narrated the story of creation of the cosmos and of man, a commentary, exposition of the stanzas of Jnana slokas to be put in Sanskrit. Her voice of the silence is a treatise on the yoga of theosophy. Having done this, she said, the work is too gigantic for any one person to undertake, far more to accomplish. Our main concern is simply to prepare the soil. We have done. A commencement has been made to fell and uproot the deadly upas trees of superstition, prejudice, and conceited ignorance. Until the rubbish of the ages is cleared away from the minds of theosophists, it is impossible that the more practical teaching could be understood. The later authority continued her work, and this was more in the form of commentary to the doctrine she introduced. After 3 decades, a more practical instruction started flowing, as could be seen from the works of Mr. J. Krishnamurti, namely At the Feet of the Master and Educational Service. These 2 tiny volumes of instruction were produced in 1910-11 and became very widely circulated the world over for their seeming simplicity and direct approach. The first one is more a sort of ethical teaching, culminating in the supreme characteristic needed for the human development in total, the love. The second book is a companion to the first, and the need, methodology, and the appropriateness of imparting education among all sections of men and women of the world, not just the school students, was therein elaborated. Thus, we see an unbroken continuity of the new teaching to humanity. Madame Blavatsky stressed the need for carving new brain paths for opening oneself to the higher regions of understanding. Her emphasis was for making a new man, a manava out of Manushya. Krishnamurti started speaking of a new mind, a new kind of humanity, and an awakening of intelligence. His avoidance of technical jargon in his talks and books made a crisp and succinct appeal to all. He was more a social scientist in whom philosophic intones and deeper insights for a strong undercurrent. We clearly see continuity of thought and appeal. Their common endeavor was to free men and women of the world absolutely and unconditionally. In her essay on occultism versus the occult arts, Madame Blavatsky says, I quote, "Let them, aspirants, know at once and remember always that true occultism or theosophy is the great renunciation of self, unconditional and absolutely," I unquote, in thought and in action. This was as well the central idea or core of Krishnamurti's teaching. While HPB deals with the process of life in its cycles and circles, globes and rounds, in claiming the absolute identity of the divine and the human, Krishnamurti emphasized more on human behavior patterns, social needs in tune with the welfare of all. Ideas on the concept of God, theology, and its application are equally identical. Their source of knowledge and the consequential reverence for life in itself are inescapably the same. Madame Blavatsky makes no personal claims for her statements and does not conceal of her receiving the guidance of the Master's wisdom. Krishnamurti, too, in his first book, says, "These are not my words, they are the words of the Master who taught me." Both advocate a path of self-understanding, not bending blindly to an authority, however great that can be. Pondering over the teaching and examining that it rings true to oneself is what was suggested. Of course, Krishnamurti does not refer to the great ones in his later writings and even avoids questions upon the subject. The aspirant is the key, said Madame Blavatsky. There is no ready-made path to truth. Each has to make his own by his understanding, enlightenment and awareness, according to Krishnamurti. Truth is a pathless land, was his statement. Krishnamurti does not talk laboriously about the acquisition of knowledge or wisdom. He does not speak about bliss or a state of paradise and the like. But his beloved, the otherness, speak volumes on this. Computer cannot see the beauty of sunrise or sunset, he says. The poetic imagination, experiential knowledge are not possible through the artificial intelligence means and methods. Creativity or the real intelligence is our ken, not a mechanical, repetitive manner of living. Many readers of the present time seem to think and too often get stuck to the idea that Krishnamurti has abandoned Theosophical Society and its philosophy. They even attempt to draw a line of separation, cut-off point to his teachings. There is evidently no reason for doing this, inasmuch as his flow of teaching has a definite continuity and alignment with the original source. This is more an academic point and needs no elaboration here. His basic ideas for the life teaching stem invariably from the two initial books mentioned earlier. All his following and succeeding books, writings, were an expansion in concept and application of these root ideas. Expressing her views on the future of the Theosophical Society in her book The Key to Theosophy, Madame Blavatsky said, "The general condition of men's minds and hearts will have been improved and purified by the spread of its teachings. And as I have said, their prejudices and dogmatic illusions will have been, to some extent at least, removed. Not only so, but besides a large and acceptable literature ready to men's hands, the next impulse we find a numerous and united body of people ready to welcome new torchbearer of truth. He will find the minds of men prepared for his message, a language ready for him in which to clothe the new truths he brings, an organization awaiting his arrival which will remove the merely mechanical material obstacles and difficulties from the path. Underlining added by this writer, suggesting that the person is no other than Krishnamurti. Madame Blavatsky proclaimed herself a messenger of the masters of the wisdom. Her mission, according to her, is to pave way for the humanity in understanding the spiritual truths. Krishnamurti does not make such proclamations. He says he has no teacher, but he penned his own core of teachings. His short article, Who Brings the Truth, is one self-revealing of his own stature unassumingly. The Theosophical Society and its philosophy have been consistently working for the spiritual regeneration of humanity. Krishnamurti perhaps was not technically a member of the society in his later years, but his working sympathy and advancing thought, ultimately moving towards the end of time and thought, were clear indications of his oneness with the movement. Awakening of intelligence and choicelessly arriving at the ultimate point of existence are his recipe for humanity. Elsewhere he says, I can belong to a community, a commune, and then feel close to the others because we are there at the same time. Fundamental change is needed, not a momentary response or reaction. Inward revolution and new way of looking at things as they are and not as in a way we want them to be are necessary. He does not speak of an unveiled spiritual perception, but the way he leads is that a total look at things, no fragmentation and no aggrandizement. The needs of the humanity are well known to the great ones, and they know when to send, inspire, and commission whom at the appropriate time. At the lower level of our own understanding, we can comfortably take it all as the development of human thought and endeavor. The teachings of both are available to us verbatim, and we are free to come to our own understanding. An unbiased look will immediately recognize continuity in thought.